Good afternoon, St. Louis, and welcome into the Billikens Central Postgame. I'm Matthew Rocchio, live from Chaifetz Arena. As the Billikens do it again, they continue on this win streak that has now gone to 11 games. It's a 17-1 start, the second time they have ever started that well in program history, and it's an 88-63 win over conference rival Richmond. It's another incredible game for the Billikens. We're going to have a lot of superlatives, a lot of things that I'm sure you've heard before, because when a team's this great, you just sometimes run out of things to talk about with how good they are. We will try to find as many things as possible. The big thing I'm going to highlight right now, as we have it in the rundown, is just what they've been able to do in this conference schedule. This is the third time in now 5 games in the conference where they have won the game by a difference of 20 points or more. The other ones are, I believe, a 9 and actually 11-point victory. So 3 out of the 5 conference games, they've won by more than 20 points. They dominated today for the 7th time this season, taking the lead early, never giving it up, and winning the game from start to finish. The Billikens just continue to trample anyone who steps in front of them. If you want to talk about another Billikens victory, you can jump in right now on this Billikens Central Post game, brought to you by our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook, where the crown is yours, and of course at Home Bank. I'll tell you more about our sponsors as we continue to roll. Jump into the chat. You can control the conversation in today's show as well, and also we'll be joined by one of the legendary voices of the Billikens, either Rammer or Earl Austin, as that has now been thrown into the possibilities on these Billikens Central's post games. But jump into the chat now if you want to talk about anything. You can direct this conversation before they get there, or we'll talk about what we always talk about. And, of course, that's going to include a great game from Robbie Avila, some incredible stats from the Billikens, and, oh, yeah, of course, Kellen Thames doing some incredible stuffs on a basketball court. Samuel Howe jumps into the chat and says, phew, my arachnophobia was an irrational fear. Yeah, listen, Richmond's a solid team. You know, they've had a bad loss to St. John's 2 games ago, but they have a team that can beat you. You know, they clearly crashed the offensive glass well, walked away with 9 offensive boards today. Billikens actually rebounded them on the offensive board after a slow start, 12-9, one of the highest offensive rebounding total for the Billikens in conference play. And that's the thing. They had to do it different ways tonight. We talked about it with Earl. We talked about it with Rammer. They just have to do 3 or 4 things at an elite level, and they'll win games. And if they do more than 3 or 4 things at an elite level, they'll win games by 25. Samuel Howe jumping in. George Mason and Dayton, who loses first? Well, Dayton gave everybody a scare last night against Loyola Chicago, and I feel like we're going to keep getting scares like that against whoever's facing Loyola Chicago, because the A10 just can't be normal for even 5 seconds. So things like that are going to continue happening. I think it's going to be George Mason. I really just think Dayton's a more talented team at this juncture, and the script writers, I think, would really enjoy Dayton continuing to roll and having it be just the absolute peak of a matchup once the Billikens and the Flyers face off against each other for the Arch Barron Cup. I know it's a big deal in both fan bases. Samuel Howell also saying, just because you can score 100 doesn't mean you have to. Yeah, I don't think shirts like plastering teams worse than 30. Me and one of the other media members were joking about that today. He figured this game was going to get ugly fast. I thought it would stay around the 30-point mark, and that's where we topped off. I actually think the biggest lead – did we get a 30-point lead at one point for the Billikens tonight? Let me see if I can find out. We might have gotten a 30-point lead here. Biggest lead, 32 points for the Billikens with 5:16 left in the second was actually what the lead got up to. But again, closing out here with an 88-63 25-point victory. LGOT03 says, what poor guy from Shake Shack is going to lose his job over this Bills point giveaway this season? Yeah, they seem like it's almost automatic to hit 80. They didn't do it on Wednesday night because Paul Otieno pulled a Boris Diaw when he passed it to a 3-point shooter when there was a wide open dunk right in front of him. But there was no doubt, if you saw the way they played the first half tonight, there was no doubt they were hitting 80 points. I'm honestly surprised they didn't hit 90. I was saying at halftime, I wasn't able to get DraftKings to open, but I would have put the Bills line for the second half at 92.5. And he pulled the Jax Kerr and Cameron Hudson button with 2:46 left, with the Billikens having 82. So I think they can probably score. They probably hit 90, but he likes getting those minutes for Jax Kerr and Cam Hudson. You can't really blame them. Before we get into too many stats, I want to talk to everyone about one of our wonderful sponsors here on the Billikens Central Postgame, and that is our friends over at Home Bank. Check them out, 300 East Pittman Avenue in Lake St. Louis. But it's easier. You can give them a call at 855-577-2001. This Billikens Central Postgame brought to you by our business banking partners at Home Bank. From business lending to everyday banking, Home Bank has been with us since day one as a trusted partner. Business isn't just about numbers, it's about relationships. And with Home Bank, those relationships make all the difference. Home Bank is the team behind our team at STL Sports Central. Visit myhomebank.bank or call 855-577-2001. That's My Home Bank. Member FDIC, more than a bank. They're your business partner. Of course, they bring us the money moment of the game. This one's pretty easy for me. Billikens took an 8-2 lead, and at that moment, this game was over. They just had a feel. The Richmond coach is saying to his team, try to guard now, Red. That was the direct quote from the coach of Richmond at one point. Try to guard now, Red, right at that point, because out of the gate, the Billikens were dominating this game. It was 11-2 at one point, I believe. They had a 10-0 run early in the game that took it from 6-4. So I believe it was then 14-4. That's a kill shot right there. That's what we call when you have a 10-0 run. So I'm going to give it the Billikens right out of the gate, killing this game early. That's because what this Billikens team does is, when I talked about this earlier this morning with Earl Austin Jr., and I might get to talk about it with him again here later on in this Billikens Central postgame, this team is just demoralizing for teams, and it's not in the usual way, which is, oh, we're turning the ball over, they're blocking all our shots because they got all these trees, these guards just eat us up. They got a trapping philosophy that gets a lot of turnovers. They do a full court press. It's none of that. It's just every possession, it's 20 seconds of the hardest half court defense you've seen in Chaifetz the entire time they've been playing in this building for the most part. It's just, that's what it is. They're not going to get too many steals. They're not going to get a lot of blocks. They got a few tonight. Ended the end of the night with 7 steals and 3 blocks, 10 stocks, or 10 Hakeems, if you will, if you're on collegebasketballanalytics.com. That's pretty good for them if they can hit double digits of forcing turnovers, because it doesn't matter if you miss a shot, even if you score, there's a good chance the Billikens are going to turn it into a transition bucket. So they don't need to get turnovers, and that was another example tonight, which is just early and often you saw it. The Richmond offense couldn't get into any sort of flow, and that was it from almost the first possession. They were forcing bad shots. They couldn't get in the paint. Now, I know Richmond's had some trouble getting in the paint in other games. They only had 8 paint points against St. Joe's in that game there, but again, you look at it tonight, and you talk about points in the paint. Richmond ends with 20, SLU has 36. There was at one point, though, and I believe I tweeted it out, where the discrepancy was much larger than that. And at one point, Josh Schertz, even speaking to an official, pointed to the points in the paint discrepancy, which at that point was high 20s for SLU and high single digits for Richmond. And then the free throw discrepancy, which was only 3 in favor of the Billikens, and kind of wondered, why are the two discrepancies not matching a little bit closer? But that's just a good example of showing just how consistent the Billikens really are. Got a couple more chats here as people are jumping in to this Billikens Central Post game. Please jump into the chat. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe here on the chat. That Dayton game should be sold out. Yes. Speaking of that, I gave the crowd a little shit on Wednesday because it was sparse, and it was a Wednesday night where not a lot was happening in St. Louis. But can't say a word about it tonight. Completely full. I mean, from the rafters to the floor, everyone was in here. Everyone was loud. The students section, very loud, very enthusiastic. Need to work on the chants a little bit, but still very loud and enthusiastic. They brought the energy, and there's no doubt. I mean, I'd be able to put if anybody wants it, I'll give you odds that you would have bet on the Billikens game being sold out. I'll happily take the yes, it will be sold out. It will be sold out. The city's buying in. It wasn't maybe going to buy into a weeknight game against a mediocre team, but against for the Arch Baron Cup, against the cream of the crop of the A10, yeah, I think everyone's paying attention at that point. Lose. Bloodhound Little Jeff says, "Duh, Blue Jays lose." I really hope that's not about Creighton. If you guys watch any of the podcasts I do, I cover the Billikens, but I date someone who played sports at Creighton, so I really hope that's not the Blue Jays. I hope that's just a Dodgers fan. It looks like their picture coming in and chatting here with us on the Billikens Central Postgame. Samuel House says smother and cover. Yeah, that's a good way of describing how the Billikens play defense. They're not going to wow you. I mean, today was another day. Let me see if I can find the exact numbers here. Today was another game where I believe the visitor finished close to or below 50% in layups. It was 7 for 12 in layups for Richmond tonight. There's been multiple games this year where teams have finished below 50% on layups, and you're thinking, well, Paul Otieno doesn't play a lot of minutes, and Robbie Avila is not exactly a shot blocker, but it's just because this defense is always in the right position. Someone's always tagging. Someone's always helping from the weak side. The defense is just the most solid unit. The offense can fluctuate. The offense can have nights where it only hits, when it only goes 10 to 30 from three-point and hits 33%. It doesn't matter. The defense is so consistent in creating so many opportunities for the offense that they create easy opportunities, and they still almost score 90 while missing their usual season split stats of hitting 50, 40, and like 75. They go 49, 33, and 78. Not bad, but not great. Let's talk a little bit more about our wonderful sponsor here on STL Sports Central. That is DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Of course, everybody right now going on, it's a little bit of the football. I got a prop bet going on right now where I laddered Curtis Samuels. And what laddering means, I put a little bit of money on 20-plus yard receptions. I put a little bit more money on 30-plus yards. I put a little bit more money or a little bit less money because I'm getting better odds on 40 yards, a little bit less on 50 yards, maybe even just a tiny little 75-cent taste on 60-plus yards. You can ladder players. That's my fun thing that I like to do when it comes to these bets. I know that one's going on right now in this game, but pick a wide receiver, pick a running back you like in these next games coming up. Maybe you like the running back in Seattle because Sam Darnold wasn't throwing the ball very much this week, so you're going to go with a running back in Seattle. That's a good way to ladder a little bit of a prop bet on these NFL games because DraftKings Sportsbook, being an official sports betting partner of the NFL, makes every playoff moment bigger. Like I said, ladder those running back yards if you want to, as the Seahawks a little sketchy about that quarterback position today. And then, of course, you can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Of course, in partnership with DraftKings, where the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or call ccbg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, call dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
All right, we are back here on the Billikens Central Postgame, and I am joined by Bob Ramsey. Rammer, you just got finished talking with Coach Schertz, and your takeaway, his takeaway on another Billikens win.
Well, Richmond is so good offensively, and they're so unique with their Princeton offense. To be able to play the kind of defense that SLU played today, I think that's the thing. Because, like I said, Richmond scores over 80 points a game, and they do it efficiently, and they do it with a style that's so hard to guard that the Billikens, with 1 day of practice, were able to come up with a game plan and moreover execute the game plan and really stymie the Spiders.
I was just talking about the defense before you came on, so this is perfect because, and I was talking with Earl, I was on his show on KLIS this morning, and we got to talk some Billikens, obviously, and we were talking about the defense, and you're only going to get a couple pieces of paper under Robbie, but his rim protection is legitimate this year. I mean, there was the majority of the game, Richmond was below 50% in layups at the rim.
Yeah.
They had almost no points in the paint, and they're not. Tonight was actually a good night for the Billikens, creating turnovers, 7 steals, 3 blocks. They're not doing it in like the most impressive one-on-one ways. Guys are swiping at places they come through, but it's just every single possession you're getting 25 seconds of positionally sound defense. There helps coming from the weak side. People are tagging on drivers. Everything is just so solid that it's not about one possession, making the big turnover and getting out in transition. It's just over 40 or 50 possessions, the defense is winning more often than not, bottom line.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. And you mentioned Robbie, and the Spiders are going to switch 5, and they did it the whole game. And what's interesting is that Robbie said, okay.
Yes.
And then once the switch came, he sought the spot, and they were able to find him. And it was just I thought Robbie's his on-court basketball IQ. I mean, that was really on display today.
Yeah, and that jumped out to me too, because last year the big thing with Robbie, especially in conference play, and I think Richmond was one of the teams that did it to him, was people went small against Robbie, and that frustrated him. He wasn't able, and you would have thought, oh, he's going to dominate these small guys down low, and he wasn't able to do it consistently last year. Every possession he got the small man. It was mouse in the house, and he was going to the rack, and he was winning the dribble. A lot of those possessions last year when he small switched onto him, those ended in turnovers last year. Tonight it was ending in buckets.
Yeah, and so what do you do? I don't know what you do if you're the opposition.
I think that was the question that Richmond was asking.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, that's what they do, and they have the athletes to do that, but he just made them pay for the decision.
And I was talking about with Earl the tagging. I mean, I
started saying it on the air.
They had
talked about it on the air.
They had three or four, maybe five of those 7 steals, all just coming on drives coming in. Dion swipes, Kellen swipes, and it's not one guy getting the turnover. It's 3 guys together to get the turnover.
We spent 5 minutes talking about tagging.
Yeah,
I even said on the air.
Right, and maybe more than any other game we've seen, and we're talking Earl Austin Jr. off camera, that we've ever seen, is on those drives, nobody's left on an island.
Yes.
And not just a second guy on help, but frequently a third guy, knowing that, recognizing and being able to make the defensive move.
Obviously, another incredible game from Kellen. It comes off the bench, immediately impacts the game. 3 quick buckets, steals, dunks. The one that jumped out to me, and it always seems to be the play that doesn't get on there, because it's just team is audacious, and it's just obviously Robbie's coming up half court, and Kellen tries to dunk it. I mean, and Kellen tries the alley-oop immediately. I mean, immediately he's like, oh yeah, Robbie's got the ball. I got a free baseline. Immediately tries the alley-oop. He's always hunting those moments. It's just, he's so special.
So maybe your fans will be able to help out. We've been trying to find a moniker, nickname, something for Kellen, Mr. Electric, whatever. We went at our halftime break. We went out in the foyer by Lorenzini's, and a fan came up to us and said, "Billiken basketball, the King Thames version."
Oh, I like that. King Thames, I like that. See, I was gonna go a little bit more old school. I think you would like this one. I was gonna go something like Predator or like Deer Hunter, because he has this killer mentality, and he's like the thing that gets me, I don't think I've ever seen a player do it, is you'll stand over in the corner and he's hunched over, because he's just ready to pounce at all times. If there's a missed shot or if he sees the alley-oop chance open, he's always ready to pounce. For me, it's some kind of dead-eyed killer from a movie. Yes, that's what I get when I see Kellen Thames, because he knows what he's searching for, and as soon as he sees the little snap, he goes. And I mean, the fact that he continues to score as many points as minutes played as he has over the last 3 or 4 games. I said it to Earl. I mean, I'm running out of adjectives. I need to bring a thesaurus to talk about Kellen Thames.
And you had asked me when I first sat down, what did Coach Schertz talk about? And we talked about one of the hallmarks of this team to this point is their not just willingness, but their own desire to make their teammates look good, and get everybody involved.
Extra passes, diving for balls,
and late in the game, Brady Dunlap went over to Coach and put his arm around him and said, "Hey, Sharma's real close to double figures," and blah blah. And he goes, "Let's get him in." And Coach Schertz said, "Well, why don't I put him in for you?" And Sharma says, "Okay." Brady said, "Okay."
That's awesome. Yeah, because he had 8-5, 8, 6, and 5.
Yeah,
and we've talked. I think the last time you were on with me was 3 or 4 games ago. We were over on the other baseline, and we talked about Sharma's floor game. Every single game, it doesn't matter what he's scoring. The defense is there. The passing is there. He makes the gravity work. Him and Brady, and him a few more games, but Brady over the conference schedule. Yeah. It's just the passing. The defense from those guys has been incredible. Brady's passing continues to shock.
You can see the evolution.
That's
he came in, he was banged up, recovering from some surgery. This guy's a 6'7" shooter. Hey, nice weapon to have. And then as time goes on, you start to see all these other parts of his game develop, and most of it kind of in season. Yeah, we saw it evolve.
And that's the thing is, you see Sharma's thing. You're like, okay, as long as he shoots threes, I don't care what else he does. He adds defense and passing. It's like, okay, now look, and rebounding, now look what we got. Brady, he's 6'7". All you're thinking is as long as he plays a little defense with that length and rebounds a couple times, I don't care, just bring the shooting. And yet now,
diving on floors, deflecting
the
balls.
secondary pick and rolls, when a team closes on his open jumper, and then the guy re-screens a pick and roll, and he hit Paul on one, he hit Kellen on one a few games ago. He just, these passings he's making, I never saw that from him. And I obviously never needed to do it at St. John's, and now he's doing it here. It's been amazing.
Plus, if you focus on him, he's having a great time out there.
Oh, he's having so much fun. I love that too. Speaking of somebody having a good time, first of all, shirts today. The Dion Brown block, which unfortunately I think the Richmond player did a good job of going up with his hand over the ball, and Dion came through the hand. But shirts didn't like the call at first, and at one point just does one of these towards the official, which I've never seen a coach do. But also at one point he sidles over to the official, and this was when this was before the last 6 or 7 minutes or so, and at that point the points in the paint discrepancy was 29-9, and the Billikens had taken 17 free throws to Richmond's 4. And so we've been talking about the foul discrepancy. I know obviously you have some thoughts on that.
I thought tonight that it was, and if you look at the box score, fouls and free throw shooting pretty close.
Yeah.
To where it wouldn't be a red flag unless you watch the game.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. That's why I like Shirts isn't just bitching about the fouls. He's like, hey, by the way, we're destroying them in the paint.
Right.
Isn't that a factor into all this? Shouldn't it be a little bit?
And Richmond, and this is not a complaint about Richmond. No. When they foul, they hard foul.
Yes, they do.
Hey,
they close it out. They're
playing hard, playing tough, and yet guys are hitting the deck, hitting the floor hard, and they just play on, and you come down, ticky tack, boop, there's a whistle. It was just I can see why Coach was asking for an explanation.
One last point, and we'll get out of here. Just something that jumped out to me early in the first half. 8 of the 9 guys in the rotation scored. First play of the second half, Trey Green hits a 3. All 9 guys score. Everyone contributes. The rebounding, the passing. It's just an entirely team game, and we haven't seen it yet. But I have to think that, especially with why we see Jackson and Cam early too, is just Shirts is always planning for that one game where somebody disappears,
right? And
you have to have the rotation set without them. And right now, it seems like anybody could drop off, and the other 8 guys are going to be able to be just fine.
Yeah, most games and for most of the first half, Coach scripts it, and then, but then in the second half, you can mix and match and foul trouble and that sort of thing. And to me, the second half usage is more fascinating.
Yep, Billikens are back in action. They travel.
Be ranked tomorrow?
Yeah, they'll be ranked tomorrow. I definitely think so. If Miami, Ohio, not hitting that last second shot and winning in overtime definitely would have helped them. But Utah State losing to Grand Canyon is a big thing for the Billikens schedule, which just keeps getting better. Santa Clara and that's another thing is over the week. The Santa Clara one bumps up to a Q1, so I almost think it's almost guaranteed. I think they will be ranked probably 25. But yeah, the Billikens should be ranked, so it should be a ranked Billiken squad who travel to face off against Duquesne on Tuesday night, 6 p.m. tip-off. You can catch the pregame on the Mighty Mox or 104.1 with Bob Ramsey and Earl Austin starting at 5:50 on Tuesday. We'll be here in an away game, so we'll be on our personal studios here on the Billikens Central postgame, but we will be here, as we always are, on STL Sports Central YouTube for that postgame. Again, Billikens facing off against Duquesne on Tuesday coming up. It's a 6 p.m. tip-off, 5:50 for the pregame on the Mighty Mox. Rammer, thanks so much for joining.
Hey, folks, you got to write in, and you got to get Rockio on the road. You want this on the road, courtside? We got to make that happen.
There we go. Let's see. You know what? Not just on the road. Let's save it all up. A10 tournament. Let's get Billikens Central post game to the A10 tournament. Billikens run themselves to the A10 tournament continues on Tuesday. This has been the Billikens Central post game presented by our good friends at DraftKings Sportsbook and My Home Bank. For Bob Ramsey, I'm Matthew Rocchio. Thank you very much, and have a great day, St. Louis.